So I got laid out some of the parts and pieces that I need to use to build these power heads. First off is this mold that I made with a mold making silicone in a Tupperware container. I built this pretty much just to hold the power heads straight up so they don't fall over and so the epoxy doesn't leak out the bottom. Before I was using a wax paper and just gluing them to the paper with like a silicone or some kind of caulking, but this is much quicker and easier. Here's the pipe that I'm using, a 3/8 inch steel pipe. This is structural, found in the plumbing section at Lowe's. It says 3/8 inch, but really and truly it's a 1/2 inch internal diameter, or just over actually. But it says 3/8. Don't get the 1/2 inch because it's even bigger. I think it's like 18 or 19 bucks at Lowe's. I have not found it at Home Depot, and not all of the Lowe's carries it. So check online to see if your store carries it. If not, you can order it in. I get this poly tubing from Lowe's as well. 3/8 inch internal diameter, which fits the 357 Magnums perfectly. And I basically just use that as a spacer. So I can slide it into that pipe and it doesn't like wiggle around or anything. It just takes up all the space and keeps that primer right in the middle, right in the center. I cut these a little bit longer than they need to be. You could probably cut them at about 1 inch or 1.25 inches. I think these are 1.5 inches. They work, but they don't really need to be that long. You can have the lead exposed if you want. I made a jig right here to cut the pipe and that poly tubing. Basically just drilled a hole through of each size, and I can slide my pipe in through here, and I cut it with a bandsaw, and this is 3 inches, and I believe I have this at 1.5 inches, but it really could be 1 inch long. I might remake that for future reference. So the rubber tubing that I use to hold the thing onto the spear shaft is a 5/16 vacuum line. I bought this at O'Reilly's. I think you can get it on Amazon as well, but this is the SKU for it. There's other things, fuel line and stuff like that, that you can get that'll work. As long as it's 5/16 internal diameter and roughly a 1/2 inch outside diameter, you should be fine. It's all being glued into the pipe. So as long as it fits in that pipe without crushing it down, because if it crushes it down at all, if you have to force it in there, then it's going to be too tight on your shaft and it won't work. But that's basically all I'm using. I'm just cutting all this stuff up into smaller pieces. I already got everything lined up. The pipes, I only reamed out one edge to clean the burr off. The bottom side I don't really care because I'm not sliding anything through it. So just to save some time. They go in pretty easy. Actually real easy. So as long as the epoxy doesn't leak out of it, which I don't think it will, we should be good to go. Got the epoxy mixed up. Obviously, I'm not going to be able to film this, putting them together, because it's a two-hand job. I'm doing this off my phone right now. But that's pretty much all I do, and I mix them up. So every bullet is coated. Ooh, shit. Good thing it's cold out. Epoxy's a little sluggish. But yeah, just make sure they're all coated, and then I'm basically going to pluck these out and put them in there, and then put one of these little tubes on top of it, and it's all going to glue in together. All the epoxy is going to fall down, drain down into the bottom of the tube, and hopefully not come out, because that forms a little seal with my mold making silicone. Got the rounds all epoxied up and slid in. There's some of them that didn't slide all the way down, they just have a little air bubble. But I'm going to push them down with this tubing. Just dip a little bit of it in some of that epoxy. This one here is not all the way down, so we'll just push it in with a tube. The rest of them slid all the way down to where they're supposed to, so we'll just slide this in. A little bit of epoxy so that glues that to the pipe as well. Slide that in. Dip and repeat. So having everything pre-cut aside, I probably have less than 5 minutes setting this thing up. and getting them all assembled. They'll dry overnight, and by tomorrow they should be ready to rock. All right, it's next morning. Pop some of these out. See how the epoxy will drain down? It's pretty easy to pop off. You got a knife and a pair of scissors or something. You take that excess off real easy. That's just from where I was sliding the round in, and it drained all the way down to the mold. But other than that, they look pretty good. Pop that little piece off. There is a gap right there, but that round was completely encased, so it is watertight, and there's plenty to hold it into the pipe. And the back side is still free. I think it works pretty good. So if anyone's wondering, this is the product I use to make the silicone mold. It's a 2 equal part, 1-to-1 ratio. I got it on Amazon, roughly $30-ish. I basically had maybe half this container to make that mold, maybe a little bit less. And this is the epoxy that I've been using on them. It's a little bit slower cure than the stuff that I use on the spear guns. So that allows everything to drain down. That way you only have a thin layer over top of the primer itself. It gives it plenty of time to drain down off the primer so you don't have a big glob there. And also any of the slop that gets on the outside of the pipe when you're assembling it, it gives it a chance to drain all the way down to the mold. That way you're just popping off a bead off the side and not have a huge mesh down the whole side. I like that a lot. I get both these products on Amazon as well. All right, thanks for watching, guys.
Okay.